Deadpool and Wolverine is having a huge opening weekend at the box office, both domestically and globally, with some early projections suggesting that it could actually reach $400 million globally during its opening weekend, which would just be shattering all sorts of records for an R-rated film. So let's look at this article from Forbes. It's going into the detail about it. Deadpool and Wolverine shatters box office records, eyes $400 million global opening. Marvel instant summer blockbuster Deadpool and Wolverine from director Sean Levy, who co-wrote with Ryan Reynolds, is shattering box office records and expectations this weekend as it eyes a possible $400 million global opening. It looks destined to be the biggest R-rated movie in history. Deadpool and Wolverine took $65 million in international markets heading into the weekend, and stateside, the MCU superhero sequel sat atop an estimated $55 million for Friday, including Thursday early screenings. If we include China's opening numbers as well, then we're talking about nearly $130 million, and that's without international figures from Friday aside from China. Just kind of at a point of comparison, the first Deadpool movie, when that came out back in 2016, I got the numbers pulled up for it. That was setting the record. That's actually the current number one movie or the highest grossing R-rated movie during its opening weekend. That brought in $132 million during its opening weekend, but if you look at the total for its entire theatrical run, it actually made more at the international box office than it did domestically. So that's something to take into account when it comes to Deadpool and Wolverine, because if it's doing really well domestically, then it's probably going to do well overseas too. You can safely bet the international Friday ticket sales blew past the domestic figures and could send the film towards $200 million or more through end of Friday, with 2 more days of weekend business ahead. And the $200 million domestically during its opening weekend is still kind of far off right now, because the early projections were saying it would probably be around $160 to $175 million during its opening weekend. We have this article from the Hollywood Reporter kind of going into details about it, where some people don't think that it would actually be able to hit that $200 million mark, but some even think it is possible. The record-shattering preview gross in North America is difficult to decipher because of the R rating in terms of whether it changes the weekend opening forecast of $160 million to $175 million. Studios and box office analysts believe it could be hard for an R-rated movie to cross $200 million in its domestic launch, although David Herons, the Quorum, believes it could. One of the things really helping this movie is just the fact that it has good word of mouth, and that's probably going to propel it even further. It's currently sitting at an A cinema score for audiences, and if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, it has a 97% for audiences. This is something that I anticipated that the movie would start off at a high 90% mark, because a lot of people are excited about this movie. So as they go see it in the opening weekend, they'll probably give it a higher score. And then we'll probably see this slip a little bit as general audiences get a chance to see it. But I don't really see this dropping below a 90% mark. So all things considered, people do like this movie. Word of mouth is spectacular, with glowing critical, including my own, and audience reception for the long-awaited team-up, not only of the titular Deadpool and Wolverine, but of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, who worked together as these two characters in the essentially wiped from existence X-Men Origins Wolverine, and have been circling one another for a team-up ever since. And just the fact that these two have played these characters, well, Jackman's been playing the character for 24 years now. Ryan Reynolds has been playing him for quite a while too. What is it, like 8 years since the last or the first Deadpool movie? No, X-Men Origins Wolverine. What was that? That was 2010 or something. I have to double check that or whatever. But they've both been playing these characters for quite a while now, and they know the characters, and they work good on screen together. So it does make sense that they actually do finally get this team up, and this is something that people have been wanting to see for quite a while. Reynolds and Jackman have already proven their bona fides in understanding exactly what makes their characters tick and what audiences love best about them, and how to mine that deeper than anticipated for epiphanies and catharsis. They've proven it separately, and now they've proven it together, and audiences are responding exactly as you should expect, by loving it and throwing money at it. The big question to be asked from all this is whether Disney and Marvel are going to learn the right lessons, because they very much could just think the lesson to be taken away from all this. If they want to have success at the box office, they need to make their movies R-rated, have a bunch of violence and swearing, throw in a bunch of cameos, and that's going to be successful. And that's not necessarily the case. It worked for this movie because it's fitting with the character, but the reason why this movie is going to be successful is because people like the character of Deadpool. They like Wolverine, and they wanted to see the team up of the two of them for quite some time now. And now they're finally getting it. All that other stuff is just kind of icing on the cake. But of course, if they did take away all the swearing and violence and basically neutered the character, well, then this wouldn't have been successful because that's not in fitting with who Deadpool is, and it doesn't work in a Deadpool movie if they make it a PG-13 version. Yeah, there could probably be some fun to be had with that, but it just wouldn't be the same, and it would probably be a bomb if they did do something like that. And that's something that I think this movie is aware of, because there was a certain self-awareness about the movie and the current problems with the MCU. But that could very much just be Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy understanding what audiences want, and maybe the executives at Marvel are just letting them do whatever they want, but they themselves don't actually understand the problems with the MCU. So in the future, we could just be seeing the same things. Or maybe they have learned their lesson and this is them turning over a new leaf, getting back to the question of how high Deadpool and Wolverine can fly, and opening of $400 million could potentially translate into 1.08 billion at the 2.7 times final multiplier average of the first two films. And that's because the first two films end up grossing 2.7 times their opening weekend. But this is a unique case because of the direct MCU tie-in and much bigger scale of this production. The big budget allows lots of cameos sure to please audiences and add to the buzz around the film. So with 3-time multiplier, good but not spectacular, would push it towards 1.2 billion or thereabouts, north of that, and it challenges for the 2024 box office crown. And I already expect that it's in the cards. Yeah, this movie's probably going to end up grossing over $1 billion. So I hope Marvel kind of learns their lesson from this, but people saying like, is this going to be the movie that saves the MCU or kind of gets it back on its footing? No, this is a successful movie because as a standalone thing, it is kind of a successful movie. That doesn't necessarily mean future MCU movies are going to be successful unless the executives over at Marvel take away the right lessons to be learned from this. And right now, I'm just haven't seen anything to suggest that's going to be the case. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe future movies, the next one is Captain America Brave New World. Maybe that's going to be on the right track. I think that has a tough hill to climb in order for it to be profitable with how much they're spending on it, but maybe that's going to be a decent movie after all. And then the stuff we see coming out afterwards are going to be successful too. And maybe they are going to get back on their footing, but this movie in and of itself isn't going to be the one that does that. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. How high do you think this is going to get in its opening weekend or final box office total? Do you think this is going to gross over $1 billion, or do you think it's just going to miss that mark? And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And if you can, click that like button and share the video out there with your friends because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.